Johnny Cash didn't expect to see another face when the cell door opened. It was after midnight, Travis County Jail, Austin, Texas. He'd already been there long enough for the noise in his head to quiet down and be replaced by something worse. Clarity. The holding cell smelled like concrete and old cigarettes. One bench, one toilet. A barred window too high to matter. Cash sat with his elbows on his knees, staring at the floor, replaying the night backward. Not the arrest, not the cuffs, the choices. The footsteps in the hallway slowed. Keys rattled. The door opened. Cash looked up. Thin frame, long hair, denim jacket that had seen too many roads. The man stumbled once, caught himself, then froze when he recognized who was already inside. "John?" Willie blinked. "Is that you?" Cash let out a short breath that almost turned into a laugh, but didn't. "Hey, Willie," he said. "Bad night?" Willie shook his head slowly, like he was trying to wake himself up. "Yeah, real bad." The deputy pushed Willie fully into the cell, shut the door, and walked away without a second glance. The sound of boots faded down the corridor. Just like that, two of the most recognizable voices in country music were locked in the same concrete box. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Willie sat down across from Cash, pulled out a pack of cigarettes, held one up in silent question. Cash nodded. They smoked without talking, the silence thick but not awkward, the kind of silence that only exists when two people know they don't need to perform for each other. "What'd you get him for?" Willie asked. "Public intoxication," Cash said. "Hotel manager called it in." Willie winced. "That's rough. What about you?" "Weed," Willie said. "In my guitar case. Guess that makes it poetic." Cash stared at the floor. Nothing poetic about this. Willie didn't argue. They sat there, smoke curling to the ceiling, listening to the sounds of other cells. Someone coughing, someone laughing too loudly, someone crying and trying not to. "This is becoming a pattern," Cash said. "For you?" Willie glanced up. "For me," Cash said, then added, quieter, "For both of us." Willie leaned back against the wall. "Yeah, I was thinking the same thing." Cash stood and began pacing. 3 steps, turn, 3 steps back. The cell was barely big enough. "I don't remember half of tonight," Cash said. "That's the part that scares me. Not what I did, that I don't know what I did." Willie watched him carefully. "You've been running hard." "I've been running stupid," Cash snapped, then stopped himself. He exhaled, sat back down. "I'm supposed to be better than this." "Supposed to. That word'll kill you." Cash looked at him. "You ever get the feeling you're watching yourself waste something?" Willie didn't answer right away. "Like you've been given a gift," Cash continued, "and instead of protecting it, you're grinding it into the dirt because you don't know what else to do with it." Willie's cigarette burned down to the filter before he spoke. "Yeah," he said, "every damn day." They sat with that. Cash rubbed his face. "June's gonna hear about this." Willie nodded. "Yeah." "And I'll tell her I'm done," Cash said. "Again. I'll mean it. I always do." "And then what?" Willie asked. Cash didn't respond. "That's the problem, isn't it?" Willie said. "It's not the promise. It's the part after." Cash looked up sharply. "You got a solution?" "No," Willie said. "But I got eyes, and I'm looking at you, John, and I don't see a man who's in control." The words landed heavier than a punch. Cash stood again, then stopped. Slowly sat back down. "You think I don't know that?" he said quietly. "I think you know it. I don't think you've accepted it." Silence again, thicker now. Cash leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I don't know how to stop." Willie swallowed. "Me neither." The admission hung in the air. 2 men at the top of their profession, admitting, out loud, that they didn't know how to save themselves. That's dangerous, Cash said. Yeah, Willie agreed. It is. Cash looked at him then. Really looked. Not the outlaw image, not the future legend, just a tired man in a jail cell. We're wasting our gifts, Willie, Cash said. The words surprised even him. Willie's eyes dropped to the floor. We're wasting them, Cash repeated, slower this time. For what? Pills? Booze? This? He gestured at the cell. Willie didn't respond. Say something, Cash said. Willie shook his head slightly. I don't have an argument. The deputy walked past the cell, flashlight sweeping across the bars. Didn't stop, didn't care. Cash watched him go. You know what scares me most? Cash said. It's not dying. It's waking up 10 years from now and realizing this was the moment I could have changed something and didn't. Willie finally looked up. His voice was barely above a whisper. John, he said, what if this is the moment? Cash didn't answer. The question sat between them, heavy and unanswered, as the night crept toward morning. And neither of them knew yet that one of them would take that question seriously. The night stretched, not in hours, but in weight. The jail clock ticked somewhere down the hall, loud enough to be annoying, quiet enough to feel personal. Outside the small barred window, the sky was still black. Morning was coming, but it wasn't in a hurry. Cash leaned back against the wall and closed his eyes. You ever wonder, Cash said, if we already missed the exit? What exit? Willie asked. The one where things could have gone normal, Cash replied. Where we could have been just men who made music, went home, slept, woke up clear. Willie exhaled slowly. Normal was never in the cards for us. Maybe, Cash said, but broken doesn't have to be either. Willie shifted on the bench. The concrete was unforgiving. You really think this, he gestured around the cell, this is where it turns around? Cash didn't answer right away. He opened his eyes, looked at his hands. I don't know, he said, but I know this. If I walk out of here tomorrow and do the same thing again, then tonight meant nothing. That scares you? It should scare both of us, Cash said, because we're running out of moments that still mean something. Willie was quiet. His confidence, the easy humor people knew him for, was gone. This was a version of him the audience never saw. You know what I'm afraid of? Willie said, finally. Cash turned his head slightly. What? That if I stop, Willie said, choosing every word, there's nothing underneath, no fire, no edge, just silence. Cash nodded slowly. Yeah, that's the lie, isn't it? That the thing killing us is also the thing making us special. Cash laughed once, dry, bitter. Yeah, hell of a trick. They sat there, staring at opposite walls, both confronting the same thought from different angles. What if, Willie said, we're wrong about that? Cash looked at him. What if the music doesn't come from the damage? Willie went on. What if it survives without it? Cash leaned forward. You believe that? I don't know, Willie said, but I'm tired of not knowing anything for sure. Cash rubbed his jaw, thought about all the shows he barely remembered, all the mornings he woke up sick, shaking, promising himself it would be the last time. I don't want to die like this, Cash said. Willie turned fully toward him now. Like what? In pieces, Cash replied. In hotel rooms, in jail cells, with people shaking their heads saying, well, that was always coming. Willie swallowed. Yeah. The words settled between them, heavy, honest. John, Willie said, quieter now. Are you scared? Cash didn't answer immediately. Then, yes. The admission felt like pulling a tooth, painful, necessary. I'm scared I don't know how to live any other way. Scared that without the chaos, I won't recognize myself. Willie nodded slowly. Me too. They didn't speak for a while after that, the kind of silence where something real has been said, and neither person wants to cheapen it by rushing past. Around 4 a.m, Willie started humming. It was barely audible, just a thread of melody, like he wasn't sure he wanted to hear it himself. Cash opened his eyes. "What's that?" Willie stopped. "Nothing." Didn't sound like nothing. Willie hesitated, then hummed again, this time a little clearer. A road song, slow, reflective, about distance, about choices that keep moving even when you don't. Cash listened without interrupting. When Willie finished, the cell felt different, lighter somehow. "That's good," Cash said. Willie looked surprised. "You think?" "I know," Cash replied. "That's the real thing right there, not the rest of the noise." Willie stared at the floor. "Funny thing is, I wrote that sober." Cash raised his eyebrows slightly. "Didn't think it counted," Willie added. "Didn't think I counted without the rest." Cash nodded. "We lie to ourselves in creative ways." The first hint of light crept into the window. Morning. Footsteps approached again. Keys. The sound of a system resetting for another day. "Looks like we're getting out," Willie said. Cash didn't move. "Yeah." They stood up slowly, not rushed, like neither of them wanted to break the moment too fast. "We gonna do anything about this? Or just talk real good and forget it by lunch?" Cash met his eyes. "We try," he said. "That's all I can promise. We try." Willie extended his hand. Cash shook it. No speeches, no vows, just two men acknowledging something had cracked open. The door opened. They were released separately. Different paperwork, different exits. Willie walked out first. Cash stayed behind another 20 minutes. And when Cash finally stepped into the morning air alone, he realized something unsettling. They hadn't exchanged numbers, hadn't made a plan, hadn't set a date. Just a promise made in a cell at 4 a.m. A promise that might change everything, or nothing at all. Cash didn't go back to sleep after he got out. He sat on the edge of the hotel bed, shoes still on, staring at the carpet like it might explain something to him. The room smelled like old smoke and cheap soap. His head hurt. His hands were steady, but that didn't mean anything anymore. He'd learned not to trust quiet mornings. He kept hearing Willie's voice. "Are you scared?" Cash answered out loud, to another man. That alone felt dangerous. By noon, the promise already felt fragile. That was the truth neither of them had said in the cell. Promises made at 4 a.m. are easy to respect at 4:05. They get harder by lunchtime, by nightfall, by the next bad show, the next long drive, the next reason. Cash tried to do better. He really did. He saw doctors, talked about cutting back, talked about getting clean, but talking had always been his specialty. Action was something else entirely. Some weeks were good, some weren't. Progress came in inches, then slipped back a foot. And in the middle of all that, life kept moving. Tours, albums, expectations. Willie crossed his mind more Cash expected. Not as a symbol, not as a warning, just as a mirror. That night in the cell had done something subtle. It had taken Cash's chaos and reflected it back to him through another man's eyes, and that reflection stuck. Years passed. They didn't stay in touch. Not really. They ran in the same circles, heard about each other through industry noise. Both survived longer than some people expected. Both struggled longer than they wanted to admit. And then one afternoon, Cash heard a song on the radio. It stopped him cold. It was Willie's voice, older, clearer, steadier. The song Willie had hummed in the cell, now fully formed, recorded, real. Cash sat alone in his dressing room and listened all the way through. He didn't cry because it was sad. He cried because it existed.
because it meant something had changed, somewhere, somehow. That night hadn't vanished. It hadn't been swallowed by the blur. It had planted something, maybe not immediately, maybe not cleanly, but it had stayed. Years later, during an interview, Willie was asked about Johnny Cash, about influence, about friendship. He paused before answering. "There was a night in Austin," Willie said, 1966. "We both got arrested, ended up in the same cell, and we talked all night." The interviewer leaned in. "About what?" "About fear," Willie said. "About wasting what we'd been given. John said something that never left me. He said, 'We're wasting our gifts, and for what?'" "Did that night change you?" Willie thought for a moment. "It didn't save me, but it showed me myself, and sometimes that's the beginning." Johnny Cash never corrected that story, never added to it, never claimed it meant more than it did. But when he died, his family found a small stack of letters in a drawer he kept closed. One of them had a date on it, the date of the Austin arrest. It wasn't fan mail, no praise, no thanks, just a man writing plainly about a night that forced him to look at himself without excuses. Cash had kept it, not because it made him look good, but because it reminded him of the moment he stopped lying to himself, even briefly. Roseanne Cash would later say something that explained her father better than any headline ever could. "My dad believed attention was a moral act, that seeing clearly and choosing not to look away was a responsibility." That belief didn't make him perfect. It made him honest. The night in the jail cell didn't fix Johnny Cash. It didn't cure Willie Nelson. It didn't turn into an instant redemption story. What it did was smaller and harder. It interrupted the lie that tomorrow would magically be different without effort. It forced two men, tired, gifted, afraid, to say the quiet part out loud. "I'm scared. I don't know how to stop. I don't want to waste this." That was the moment that stuck. Not the arrest, not the cell, the honesty. And sometimes that's enough to change the direction of a life, not all at once, but just enough to keep it from going off the edge. That night didn't make legends. It reminded two men they were human, and that mattered more.